Everyone wants to be a thought leader these days. You hear this word when it comes to people building personal brands, people working in the corporate world, people who want to become politicians, people who are looking to expand their consultancy. You hear this keyword, thought leadership, thought leadership, thought leadership, quite often. And what I realize these days is that a lot of people have confused thought leadership with visibility or with proximity to power. So you hear people say things like, if you see this person around people who are powerful, you see them on a panel, you see them doing impressive things, then they can be dubbed a thought leader. So today, I want us to demystify one of the words that people talk about in relation to personal branding quite often, but is not really fully understood. My name is Keni Ribeiro, and this is Positioned, where we discuss influence, visibility, credibility, and long-term authority. Stay tuned. Let's start with trying to understand what thought leadership means. What does thought leadership mean? I think the clue is in the name, thought and leadership. You can't think about calling yourself a thought leader if your thoughts are literally not leading. Most people tend to think of this as, oh, it just means I have a LinkedIn post here, I'm doing something here and there. No, it means that your influence primarily comes from your ideas, your ability to see patterns, your ability to interpret what is happening, your ability to simplify complex things, your ability to explain things in a way that makes people say, I never thought of that before. Your ability to get people to rethink the way they approach certain things. That is actually thought leadership. I find that a lot of people tend to think that it means that I'm attracting attention or, people are engaging with my posts. While those are important for celebrities and influencers, for instance, for thought leaders, what you want to do is to change conversation. That should be the difference. After hearing a thought leader speak, people must change the way they think. They must make different decisions. A company must change its strategy. An industry must adopt a different framework other than what they were used to, simply because of the thoughts that you have shared. People must start to frame their own experiences using the language that you yourself have used because they see it as a reference for the way they're understanding their lives. People must be able to build on their thinking based on the things that you say. Your impact will go far beyond applause, virality, or any of the things that are popular these days in a world that is driven by visibility. The interesting thing is some of the greatest thought leaders are not necessarily the loudest. Some of the most influential people were thought leaders even before they became famous. The ideas just became bigger than they were. And so people remember the framework, the philosophy, the insights, and no longer just the person. And that is how those influential, famous people also became thought leaders. What you want to do at any point in time is to avoid the trap of slipping into what social media does in making you think everyone has an opinion, opinions are abundant, so everyone can say something and be called a thought leader. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Very often, what you'd realize is there are many opinions, but insight is rare. That ability to not necessarily have something to say about what everyone is saying, or not to have a hot take about every trending topic, but to be able to sit and develop depth, develop weight in your opinion, that takes research, that takes time, that takes experience, that takes the ability to observe, to be able to draw out patterns, the ability to connect things that to the regular eye may not seem related, but based on where you sit and your expertise and the weight of what you have seen in your industry, you'll be able to interpret it in a way and communicate it in a way that others can understand and apply. If you're able to do all that, I can say we are well on our way to calling you a thought leader. I usually tell people who sign up to some sort of thought leadership assistance from me that there's a simple test. If tomorrow people stop seeing your face, will they still reference your ideas? Will people still quote you? Will people still be able to say, there's this framework that I learned that I apply to certain things? Will people be able to reference your concepts? Will your ideas continue to travel? Because true thought leadership, it creates assets in intellectuality that go beyond today. People should be able to pull something you said and apply it to something that's relevant today simply because You have done the work. You've pulled the depth, the insight. You've recognized the patterns that will make someone say, I should definitely work with this. I think the mistake that most people think is what they should do is borrow authority when they are trying to build thought leadership. They are trying to borrow it rather than build it on their own. So you see them stand beside influential people. They attend prestigious events and take pictures. They collect awards. And none of those things is bad. But if your intention is to build credibility and influence in your area of expertise as a thought leader, what you want to do is to build it on your own. People should eventually be able to ask you, what do you think? And for you to have an opinion that's solid, that carries the weight of your experience in a way that will get people to say, I never thought of this before, or that's an interesting perspective. Sometimes what you have to say may even come across as unpopular, but it will not change the fact that it is something that other people need to hear. Or it may not change the fact that it is something that will shape the way other people look at whatever it is that everyone else is experiencing. So as I close this, perhaps what I want to remind anyone who is looking to build thought leadership is that it takes time. I think that in this era of speedy results, we tend to forget that it takes time to build a brand of authority and influence. It takes time to build thought leadership. It takes time for people to recognize what it is that you carry. It will require something that's harder than visibility. A quick trend, a few viral takes, that's not what will get you there in the long term. You need substance, you need curiosity, you need consistent thinking. You need the courage to be able to contribute ideas, especially in a time when it's not popular. Rather than just consuming them, you should have the courage to say the thing that no one else can say. Because in the end, thought leaders are not remembered because they knew powerful people. They are remembered because they gave people new ways to see the world or to interpret the things that are happening in this world. And that's what you want to do when you're thinking about building long-term authority. So perhaps the question we should be asking ourselves is not how do I become known? It should be, what ideas am I contributing to the world that are worth knowing? What is my contribution to this world? What is my take on what is happening? What is my insight on this thing that is happening in my industry? Or based on what I've observed in my decades of experience, how is that applicable to what is playing out in that industry or in that situation at any point in time? Influence gets people to notice you, but thought leadership gets people to rethink, gets people to readjust their positions, gets people to change the way they process life because of something you have said. And there's a lot of difference between the two. If this kind of thinking is something that interests you, I look forward to seeing you in yet another episode of Positioned. Thank you and stay tuned.